Good evening. I will call the November council meeting to order. We've got just about all members are present, and we'll have the final member indicating as such shortly. Thank you all for being here. Thank you for those in attendance here in the audience and those joining us via home. Third item on our agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a silent prayer in lieu of invocation. I invite you to please stand. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Item number 4 on our agenda this evening is the reading of the minutes of the previous meeting. Council Member C, Council Attachment number 1 in your packets.
Move to approve, place on file.
We have a motion by Kirkpatrick. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Whirl. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item number 4 on our agenda this evening is item number 5, is the explanation of the visitor speaking procedure. Those in attendance this evening that would like to address the body may do so after being acknowledged by a council member, in which you will be invited to the podium to speak for 5 minutes. Make sure that the microphone is on. There's a push button on the base of the microphone, and which it will light up green when the microphone is on, so you're picked up for RCCA as well as for us to hear you up here. Again, those are on items that are appearing on our agenda this evening, and go from there. Item number 6, my report. Good evening, alderpersons, city staff, and residents here or watching from home. As with previous months' reports, I will highlight some of the many items that cross my desk or I partake in since the last council meeting. Earlier this month, I joined high school sophomores from Nakusa, Port Edwards, Assumption, and Lincoln for the Heavy Metal Bus Tour to share an inside look at our local manufacturing facilities and to highlight the challenging and rewarding careers that manufacturing offers. The day's activity included tours of NewPage, Tweet Garrett, Fave Printing, and ECC Corrosion, and learning more about the training opportunities for careers in manufacturing at Mid-State Technical College. This was a great opportunity for area employers and Mid-State Technical College to come together to benefit students by giving them exposure and awareness to careers in manufacturing. Offering a competitive annual salary and having vacant positions that need to be filled through the retirement of baby boomers, the field of manufacturing is alive and in many fields growing. In our area, manufacturing job vacancies exist now and in the future that can provide engaging work and a rewarding career for today's students. Seeing firsthand what jobs in manufacturing entail helps provide students with the opportunity to learn and explore more about the compelling jobs that local manufacturing industry can offer them. The Heavy Metal Bus Tour was put on by the Chamber of Commerce, Encourage Community Foundation, and a number of area employers which came together to underwrite the cost for that event. Shortly after Council approved its formation, the Aquatics Ad Hoc Committee formed and began meeting to swiftly quantify the existing public aquatics offerings usage, review recommendations by the 2012-2016 recommendation from the recreational plan to collaborate with community partners, and to understand our current and upcoming aquatics challenges. At this point, the Aquatics Ad Hoc Committee has met twice with another meeting planned for December 3rd at 5 p.m. here at City Hall. The committee plans to produce a summary of its findings and produce a recommendation in December of 2014 for full City Council consideration. The meetings are publicly noticed, and interested individuals are invited to attend. This month, aligned with Veterans Day celebrations, I joined members of the County Veterans Service Officers Association and 12 local, state, and federal agencies who hosted the inaugural Wisconsin Rapids Stand-Down event at the Centralia Center. The event was designed to acquaint veterans with the many resources available to them, from enrolling in benefits, employment programs, and counseling for personal and financial matters. In all, the event saw a great turnout of over 107 veterans participating, 42 of which received clothing assistance, 11 flu shots, and 7 were identified as homeless and received assistance with area shelters. Something critically important with the cold weather returning, obviously, to our area. The state of Wisconsin has a long history of providing support benefits, programs, and services for returning veterans but many individuals aren't aware of the programs at the state, local, and federal level that they're eligible for. The Wisconsin Rapids Standout event was an excellent opportunity for local agencies to provide supporting ways to help veterans who have selflessly served our nation in this way. Lastly, budget. By now, the Finance and Property Committee has completed their review of the proposed 2015 budget. I would like again to thank city staff for their efforts to present this year's budget. In as much of a planning document, it's also an opportunity to consider changing or competing priorities. This year, investments in public safety, communications, pavement, street maintenance, capital to support the replacement of the library roof make up a few of the larger discretionary capital budget investments. Our rapid improvement program continues to evolve, where budget plays an ongoing role in identifying more efficient or cost-effective processes while maintaining the service residents have come to receive. This year's budget preparation didn't come without its regular challenges. A decline in our manufacturing assessment from two of our largest manufacturers receiving successful cases in their objection to state assessment valuations. This in particular resulted in a $10.2 million reduction, while only to be offset by a meager 0.98% in growth. Factoring cost of doing business, such as cost of living adjustments and health plan commitments, left us little options in whether we needed to consider levying our allowable increase in the tax rate. As with each passing year, 2015 will certainly leave us with another opportunity or many opportunities to make smart investments to become even better stewards of our resources. I hope you find value in a sampling of what my weeks consist of. As a reminder, I encourage residents to subscribe to my weekly community update online, and if you're not online, catch variations recorded on RCCA Media or request a print version from my office. Thank you. Item number 7 under new business, item A is the election of a citizen member to the Ethics Board. Council members, we've received letters of interest in which the clerk has provided us. There are 3 individuals who have expressed interest in filling the final vacancy on the the Ethics Board. The first individual is William Menzel. The second individual is Robert Whitrock. And the third individual is Julie Sigler Edmondson. Are either of these 3 individuals in the audience, in the audience this evening? Okay. All right, council members, open it up for nominations. I'd entertain a motion or a nomination. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Thank you. As much as I wish that these 3 individuals were here tonight to speak on their own behalf and have a nice discussion, we don't have that opportunity, but I hope another couple of individuals will follow me here. I'd like to nominate William Menzel.
A nomination for William Menzel. Are there other nominations? For the second time, are there any other nominations? And for the third and final time, are there any other nominations? With that, I'd entertain a motion to close nominations and cast unanimous ballot. We have a motion by Kirkpatrick, second by Kellogg. Any discussion? Seeing none, moving to a vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. That passes. Thank you. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Thank you. In the future, I'm impressed to see more than just one person coming forward wishing to take part in the process on Ethics Board and other boards and committees that we have, commissions that we've got. Going forward from here, I'd love to see more people wish to be involved, and these other individuals that were not nominated tonight, again, would love to see them see their names on some role in the future, step forward and say, I'd like to be a part of the process one way, shape, or form or another. So keep your ears open, and by all means, please step forward to help the community out. Thank you.
And to echo Alderperson Kirkpatrick, thank the 3 individuals for wishing to throw their name in the hat for consideration for that open position. As always, positions do come available as terms expire, in which I would encourage interested individuals who wish to serve to contact either my office or contact the city clerk to share us either a resume or their interests, so we may well to keep them in mind as we fill positions in the future. Item 7B, an update by the Aquatics Ad Hoc Committee. That was to appear on the December council meeting. An update was read by myself in the council report. I would entertain if there's any questions. We've got minutes that have not been compiled in the packet here this evening, but if anyone has any specific questions, it was discussed that our next meeting will be December 3rd at 5 p.m. Here at City Hall. Make sure I'm right with the 3rd and it's not the 10th. Right, December 3rd at 5 p.m. Any questions on the ad hoc committee? We'd invite alderpersons or anyone wishing to attend that meeting as well. Okay, we'll move into item number 8, the public hearing on the 2015 budget, in which we will open the public hearing. With that, I will entertain discussion. Council members, anyone wish to speak on the 2015 budget? Alderperson Stack, please.
Too many papers this evening. Again, I'd like to thank the staff and the members throughout the city who have worked to put this together. I recognize that not all things are met in those things which people would like to see done within the city. We had a discussion in our meeting this evening about what can and what will be done and the allocation of resources. That will always be a struggle that a community will have because we have competing interests for a certain dollar sum that is not open to what we might like to do. We have from the state of Wisconsin, we have an expenditure restraint limit which says to us each year, you as a community may be able to raise your taxes by a certain amount. With that in mind, the staff has to look at those things which they would like to need, would like to have and be able to do in the upcoming year. It was pointed out in our meeting this evening that not all streets are plowed as residents would like to see that done. And I certainly understand that. And the city has adopted through the years guidelines that say this is how we will do our street snow plowing. In turn, we have been asked this evening by the Chief of Police to purchase repeaters to enhance our emergency communications as that takes place over the next few years. We'll be purchasing 2 repeaters that will be used for the communications that take place in the city between our emergency services, and also, if need be, the city and the county will be able to monitor and, as need be, perhaps talk to one another. The move to digital communications was required by law. So because of that, we have expenditures to meet. We have, in addition to the expenditure restraint limits, we have those expenses that are brought to us through negotiations with our different departments and the people there. Now that is somewhat limited than it has been in the past due to the Act 10. However, we still have to carry out and work with those people because we want those people to work for us and feel that they are a valued employee. Another thing that we work with is the meeting the needs of health insurance. As laws have changed, things that are done by health insurance dollars have changed as well. For example, when I worked, when a child reached 21, they were on their own typically. There was few exceptions. Now a child can be 26 before they'll be off the parents' insurance rolls. We have health savings account and other matters that we bring forward and discuss in committee and council. The nature of the beast is such that we have so many dollars and so many people competing for it that we do find we are not meeting all needs at all times. I believe the committee and the staff has worked to allocate dollars in a way that both when things are done, the city and the community will feel we have done things appropriately. I realize that there is a number of opinions out there, and that may not always be. And I understand that, and I accept that, as anyone would who's raised a family, for example, and worked on a budget. In this upcoming year, we are looking to add some positions. We are looking to use technology to help in our day-to-day activities. Perhaps as we go forward, these will pay out and be improvements to the city, and that are something that will carry forward as we go into subsequent budgets and subsequent councils and mayors. Again, it's not an easy project, which Tim and his staff and the department heads do, and I appreciate all that they have done and the questions they have been able to answer. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, your second.
Thank you. Two things struck me this time around, especially tonight. One, ever since I got on council and saw the budget process take place, I was always severely disappointed in the lack of people who turned out to actually walk through a budget with the Finance Committee and with the council and the mayor. So I'm really overjoyed and excited to see members of the community come out to discuss the budget and be a part of that process. Whether or not you agree with all the things that are being proposed, it's neither here nor there. I'm just really happy to see that you've come out. So thank you. Second is something that I hope not to steal Mr. Kellogg's thunder on, but you are a big advocate of finding a way for the city to come together with the library and realize the roof project that was in desperate need. And I really want to commend Mayor's office and Tim for finding a way to make that work in conjunction with the library.
Thank you. Members of the public, for the first time, anyone wishing to address the body on the 2015 budget? For the second time, anyone wishing to address the council on the 2015 budget? And for the third and final time, anyone wishing to address the body on the 2015 proposed budget? Okay, council members, any further discussion? See no further discussion, I will entertain a motion. Oh, one second, I'm sorry, we got to close the public hearing probably. Oh, right, thank you. So at that point, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing. We have a motion, is there a second? Motion and a second by Kellogg, motion made by Kirkpatrick to close the public hearing. All in favor? Opposed? That passes. We'll move into item number 9. That item will be picked up later in the report, as the city attorney pointed out. Item number 9, report of the November 18th meeting of the Finance and Property Committee. Alderperson Stack, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. The first report, and Mayor and Shane will be doing the second report right behind the first tonight.
This is tonight's report. I'm sorry, what was the question, Jim?
Just that, since we have the two meetings, how do we want to do those?
Do the first report first, and then we'll move into
Of November 4th.
November 18th, I'm sorry, the first one on our agenda tonight. So it'll be the second one.
Okay.
Tonight's meeting
My
is noticed
apologies.
first in our agenda. Thank
Yep,
you.
my apologies.
No problem.
Okay. The Finance and Property Committee met at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 18th, 2014, in the first floor conference room at the City Hall. All members were present. Also attending were Tim DeSorcy, Mayor Zach Fruwink, former Mayor Mary Jo Carson, Mary Jo Haney, Stephen Koth, Dave Kirkman. Oh, with Steve was his daughter, Dave Kirkman, Kurt Hoyer, Jim Borski, Shane Blazer, Melanie Lauder, and Alderperson Todd Furkey and Tom Rayome, and Alderperson Kirkpatrick walked in at the end. The meeting was called to order. Item 2, a resolution adopting the tax levy and the 2015 city budget. Be it resolved that the budget for the year 2015, as stated in the public hearing document dated November 18th, 2014, be and the same is hereby adopted, and the sum of $28,008,430.28 be and the same is hereby levied and assessed against all taxable property both real and personal, within the city of Wisconsin Rapids, Wisconsin, for the year 2014. Be it further resolved that the appropriate tax rate be established and applied to the valuation of property in the city as certified by the state, so as to raise the required amount of $28,008,430.28. It was moved by Dolan, seconded by Worrell, to adopt the resolution. Motion passed. Item 3, pardon me, a request from Street Superintendent Jim Borski to replace a forklift and a floor sweeper. It was moved by Worrell, seconded by Dolan, to approve the purchase of the Conger Toyota lift for $21,947 from the Equipment Replacement Fund. Motion carried. See attachment 2. It was moved by Worrell, seconded by Dolan, to hold over the request to purchase a floor sweeper. A request from Police Chief Hoyer to purchase repeaters for emergency communications. It was moved by Worrell, seconded by Dolan, to approve the request to purchase the repeaters in the amount of $26,234.88 from Baycom. See attachment 3. It was moved, seconded to adjourn. Motion carried. The meeting adjourned at 5:40 p.m. Your Honor, I move for adoption of these minutes as presented.
Got a motion by Stack to approve. Is there and a second by Worrell? We're going to do a roll call vote. Chad, if you could hit your second on the button or on the remote, please. We have a motion and a second. Move into discussion. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Thank you. Just one note of clarification here. Item 4, it's listed as $26,234.88. And if I flip over to attachment 3, it shows total cost on the bottom line of $26,014.88. Just curious about which one of those two numbers is accurate. It's 234. Okay, thank you.
The minutes are accurate. Thank you for the clarification. Any other wishes request to speak? Again, echoing Alderperson Kirkpatrick and Alderperson Stack's comments about participation. I think having our youngest participant in the budget process with Caitlin, thank you for being here. Nice to see a young face having interest this early in the political process. So hopefully you stick with it as time goes on. And former Mayor Carson, it's great to see you as well. Thanks for being here. So we'll move into a vote. Please cast your ballots.
Motion carried, 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Move into item number 10 on our agenda this evening, Standing Council Committee reports. Item A is Finance and Property Committee meeting held November 4th. Alderperson Stack, you're up again.
Yes, thank you. The Finance and Property Committee met at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 4th.
Duly noted.
Duly noted, yes. This is an inside joke among those here present. Some other people were on other committee meeting notice. The Finance and Property Committee met at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, November 4th, 2014, in the first floor conference room at City Hall. All members were present except Alderman Worrell, who was excused. Also attending were Karen Madden of the Daily Tribune, Tim DeSorcy, Mayor Zach Ruwink, and Alderpersons Kirkpatrick and Rayom. The meeting was called to order. A request from Police Chief Hoyer for approval to apply for a DOT-BOTS High Visibility Corridor Enforcement Grant. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan, to approve the request to apply for the grant. Motion carried. Review and consider a request to approve a resolution designating American Deposit Management Company as a public depository. The resolution is attached. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan, to approve the resolution. Motion carried. The Waterworks and Lighting Commission 2015 budget review and approval. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan to approve the 2015 budget. Motion carried. Review purchasing policy matrix. This item was for discussion only. No action was taken. 2015 budget review. A discussion was held to have $6,000 budgeted for a spring citywide cleanup and to increase the light item for council members to attend conferences from $500 to $2,000. See attachment 2. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan to adopt the budget with the above changes to be added. Motion carried. Beverage operator license applications. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan to approve new licenses for the following individuals. Motion carried. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan to renew licenses for the following applicant. Motion carried. It was moved by Stack, seconded by Dolan to approve a license for an individual. However, the license will not be issued until an outstanding fine is paid to the city's municipal court office. Motion carried. Audit of the bills. It was moved and seconded to pay the bills, voucher 57016 to 57363. Motion carried. It was moved and seconded to adjourn. Motion carried. The meeting adjourned at 6:50 p.m. James Stack, chairperson. Terry Dolan, secretary. Your Honor, I move for adoption of these minutes of November 4th, 2014.
We have a motion to approve by Stack. Is there a second? We'll get a second, 1 second. Alderperson Ferkey, seconded the motion. Now moving to discussion. Alderperson Kellogg, you'd like to discuss an item, so we'll pull out item number 4. Are there any other items anyone wishes to pull out of the report? Alderperson Kirkpatrick, I'm sorry, please.
Thank you. Not one to pull out, but just one thing to kind of mention here regarding item number 6. Where are we at there? To increase the line item for council members to attend conferences from $500 to $2,000. I think as small of an amount as it is, I think it's important that people understand that the $500 that was originally budgeted, I don't know when that number went into the budget to begin with, how many years back, but that $500 was for all 8 of our council members. So if we wanted to go down to League of Wisconsin Municipalities Conference, and let's just say 2 of us wanted to go down, suddenly we'd have to come back and make a special budget request to be able to have that paid for, because those are, what, $300 and some or more in a lot of cases for those types of conferences per person to go to these things. So the move to go from $500 to $2,000, I think, is a wise decision to help offset some of that cost and to get perhaps more of us to go to some of these things when they come available. And the other kind of important key to remember here is that if we don't go to any conferences, that money's not lost, it's rolled over to the next year. So, to say that it's money thrown away is not really accurate. It's money invested in the education of the council on certain items that they wish to go to, or it's money that's held over for future years. Thank you.
Any other requests to speak in the balance of the report? Alderperson Stack, please.
Just one thing, for the record, if the clerk could include that we had Jeff Kuhn and Jem Brown were at that meeting on November 4th from the Water and Light. Thank you.
Any other requests to speak? Seeing none, moving to vote, please cast your ballots on the balance of the report with the exception of item number 4.
Motion carried, 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Moving to discussion on item number 4, which was of the report, which is Waterworks and Lighting 2015 Budget Review and Approval. I'd open up discussion or entertain a motion on that item. Alderperson Kellogg, please.
I'd like to make a comment. This is for my own clarity. I have no problem with that budget, but I know that Water and Light is asking for an increase of 5% rate. Is that part of this budget? And if it's not, I would like to see Water and Light come back to the Common Council and share how that revenue is going to be used. So Is it part of this budget? Oh, it is. But it hasn't been approved yet. Okay, so then if it would be taken out? Okay, because I wasn't sure if it was included, and if it wasn't, then when you do have it increased,
Jim, would you mind coming to the podium? I don't mind, but I know Tom will be out of the room here shortly to ask for you to come up so he can pick you up on TV. Thank you. Introduce yourself, please, for the,
My name is Jim Brown. I'm the general manager of Water and Light.
thank you.
You know, we filed for the rate increase of April of this year, but there's been such a backlog with Public Service Commission that they finally got around to having the hearing last week. And it's supposed to be approved. We hear from the Public Service Commission sometime in early December, which would mean more than likely a January implementation date. Again, it's the first rate increase that we've had since January of 2009. I think the average residential bill is forecasted to go up almost $5 a month. But if you look at our rates residentially against the rest of the 84 utilities in the state of Wisconsin, we are in the lower third, or actually the lower 15 utilities in the state, even after the rate increase. So if you look at our neighboring utilities, investor-owned utilities and co-ops, their residential rates are 20 to 25% higher than Water and Light's.
yeah, I have no problem with it. I just want the clarification so the common council will know that.
Any other questions for Jim while he's at the podium on the 2015 Waterworks and Light budget? Alderperson Stack, please.
Thank you, Your Honor. Just to Jim, in the information you presented that evening to us, you indicated a rate of return authorized 5.75% for your electric, and your rate of return as filed will be 4.76%. Is that still correct?
Correct.
All right.
And the allowable rate of return for the electric side of the business is 7%, but the PSC's been keeping the rate of return significantly lower than that, especially for municipal utilities. Now, the investor-owned utilities are typically getting their standard rate of return.
Okay. And on the water, the rate of return authorized is indicated as being 6%. This is on page 11 of the report, and you're indicating 4.35% as your return.
That is our forecast for next year, pending we don't have another winter like last year.
Correct. The winter, when you have people running water, that just bears on the cost of producing that water, doesn't it?
Not so much just the
produce-
wear and tear on the system. I think we've had water main breaks back to 95 was our record. I think we had 35 water main breaks last year, and many services to thaw residential customers. So
Yes.
it was a busy winter.
Sampson Street was lit up a couple of times last year.
Correct.
Thank you.
And we had our first break, what, yesterday?
Correct.
Yeah.
First one of
We're
the year.
Well in order for another tough winter. Any other questions for Jim or on the, or any discussion from alderpersons on the 2015 budget review and approval? And the same, I guess, would go to those in the audience. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Thank you. Mr. Kellogg, since you asked, I know kind of looking through this thing, you don't have any projects that are quite as large and extensive as, say, the Peach Street substation project from a few years back, but can you kind of elaborate where some of these funds are being kind of proposed to be utilized in the future? I know it's quite a list of stuff that you had in there, but maybe just hit some of the high points if you could.
Okay. Well, the capital expenditures will tend to trend down. When I was first hired in 2006, there was a lot of system work that needed to be done both in our substations and in our distribution facilities. So the amount of capital that we spend my first 4 or 5 years will tend to trend down since we've made most of our major investments. Next year, the bigger capital items on the electric side is another ATC feed to our Baker substation at 115,000 volts to kind of improve reliability and us allowed to work in that substation without having to take the whole sub out and then serving the whole city from the west side, our West Wisconsin sub. So it's a reliability move. Things probably that the residents will see, we'd have money in the budget to start street lighting on A Street, upgrading That will be a several-year project, but we hope to get some portion of that done next year. We're also running fiber for a better backbone for our metering and our SCADA system. We're finishing our fiber projects, running it to the water towers and to the office. So that is pretty much the bigger ones on, and we're replacing fuses at the high school sub, which is a rather large project. That's $175,000. On the water side, well, we have water main additions with the city, which is roughly $595,000. Well, we'll be replacing water main and sewer jointly, and that is really the big expenditure, nothing else on the water side. Continuing our filter plant automation is about $75,000, but to speak of it, not much on the water side next year.
Thank you very much.
Any other questions or discussion on that item? Otherwise, I'd entertain a motion on that item as well. We've got a motion to approve by Kellogg. Is there a second? And a second by Alderperson Stack to approve the balance of the report, which is item number 4. Any further discussion? Seeing none, please cast your ballots.
Motion carried, 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Thanks for your interest and questions on the budget.
Jem, thanks for being here, and John, Chairperson of the Water and Light Commission, correct? Thanks for being here as well. Okay, item number 10B, Public Works Committee meeting held November 5th. Alderperson Rayom.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Public Works Committee met at 4:30 p.m. on Wednesday, November 5th, 2014, in the second floor conference room at City Hall. All members were present. Also attending were Dave Laspa, Joe Eichstead, and Nick Dooms. The meeting was called to order as number 1. Number 2, request from Bob Young, 1320 Apple Street, to commit to reconstructing Apple Street between 12th Street South and 15th Street South in 2016 because he needs his property served by city utilities. No one is present for the item. Mr. Young needs a commitment from the city that this portion of Apple Street be reconstructed in 2016 to get his property served by city utilities so that he can get a loan to purchase the property. There's a motion and a second to recommend a commitment to reconstruct Apple Street between 12th Street South and 15th Street South in 2016, and the property will be charged for the actual cost to install boulevard utility leads to this property. And that motion carried. Item number 3, review and approve the selection of the engineering consultant for engineering design services for the intersection modification project at 8th Street South and East Grand Avenue. The engineering department recommends the selection of Strand Associates for engineering design services. The second choice is MSA Professional Services with Ayers Associates as third choice. There is a motion and a second to approve Strand Associates for engineering design services, with the second choice being MSA Professional Services and Ayers Associates as the third choice. That motion carried. Item number 4, review and approve the selection of the engineering consultant for engineering design services for the reconstruction of East Grand Avenue between 3rd Street South and 8th Street South. The engineering department recommends the selection of Strand Associates for engineering design services. The second choice is MSA Professional Services with Ayers Associates as the third choice. There is a motion and a second to approve Strand Associates for engineering design services, with the second choice being MSA Professional Services and Ayers Associates as the third choice. That motion carried. Item number 5, preliminary resolution for sanitary and water leads, curb and gutter, sidewalk, permanent street surfacing, and concrete driveway approaches on 7th Avenue North between Harrison Street and High Street. There is a motion and a second to approve the following resolution, and that motion carried. The resolution is included in the packet of minutes. Item number 6, preliminary resolution for sanitary and water leads, curb and gutter, sidewalk, permanent street surfacing, and concrete driveway approaches on High Street between 7th Avenue North and 10th Avenue North. There's a motion, a second, to approve the following preliminary resolution. The motion carried, and again, that resolution is included in our packet of minutes. Item number 7, dedicate a city-owned property for street purposes as an addition to the High Street right-of-way between 8th Avenue North and 9th Avenue North. There is a motion, a second, to have city staff contact the property owners to determine if they would want this city-owned property added to their property at no cost to them, and if not, have city-owned property added to the High Street right-of-way. Item 8 was to review the proposed 2015 Public Works construction budget. The committee reviewed the budget. Item 9, review the proposed 2014 Public Works project schedule. The committee reviewed the rest of the 2014 schedule. Item 10, review the referral list. The committee reviewed the referral list, and items number 39 from 2012 and 16 from 2014 could be removed. Item 11, there was motion and second to adjourn. The motion carried. The meeting adjourned at 5:37 p.m. And with that, Your Honor, I move for adoption of the report.
We have a motion to approve the report by Alderperson Rayom and seconded by Kirkpatrick. Move into discussion. Anyone wish to speak? Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Thank you. Question for Dave, if you please. Regarding item 7, did we hear any responses back from those interested parties?
I was waiting till the council, see if this passed the council, and I'll start contacting them tomorrow.
Understood. Thank you.
Are there any other wishes or requests to speak? Got a gentleman here representing Strand and Associates on Public Works item related to, I think it was item number 3. Any further discussion? Thanks for being here, obviously. Anyone else wishing to speak? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Please cast your ballots.
Motion carried, 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Move into item number 11 on our agenda this evening under miscellaneous reports. Item A, Housing Authority held September 24th. Item B, the Industrial Development Commission held October 30th. Item C, McMillan Memorial Library held October 15th. I see the library director is here. Ron, thanks for being here as well this evening. Item D, Police and Fire Commission held October 8th. Item E, Park and Rec Commission held October 29th. Wastewater Treatment Commission held November 5th. Item G, the Wisconsin Rapids Fire Department monthly organizational summary for October. Item H, the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department monthly report for October. Item I, the Waterworks and Lighting Commission held October 8th. The regular meeting and their October 8th Finance Committee. Item J, the July, August, and September quarterly report for the Wisconsin Rapids Police Department. Item K, the City Treasurer's report on investments for October. And item L, the Committee of the Whole held October 20th. Council members, what are your wishes regarding those reports?
Move to approve, place on file.
We have a motion by Kirkpatrick, second by Rayom. And I guess Shane needs your button. Tom, if you wouldn't mind, please. We have a motion and a second. Move into discussion. Anyone wishing to speak or request to speak on that? I did have a request from a citizen to highlight items from the Park and Rec Commission meeting minutes in which this past month there was a request for some improvements to the Whitterfield tennis courts, something that residents were passionate and interested in refurbishing and refreshing the Whitterfield tennis courts. So that project has begun and will be finished in the spring to improve the 4 courts at Whitterfield, in which there was actually a cash donation from the Friends of Tennis group. So a nice collaborative between a group in the community as well as the remaining funds coming from Park Outlay. There was also discussion and action actually by the commission on a sculpture park to approve general guidelines and agreement with revisions yet to be made by the city attorney as discussed, as well as improvements to the zoo parking lot. Anyone that's tried to park at the zoo has discovered some challenges there, especially in wet months. So those improvements are also going to be made. So that was at the request of a resident to highlight some of the items from the Park and Rec Commission. I'd entertain other discussion items or requests to speak. Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Please cast your ballots.
Motion carried, 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Item number 12 is items for new business at the December 16th council. Item A is a discussion regarding restructuring of the Finance, Treasurer, and Public Works Department. And item B under item 12 is a charter ordinance abolishing the office of the city treasurer as an elected position and further providing that the statutory duties of the treasurer be performed by the finance director. Item 13, under ordinances, item A is a sewer regulation ordinance amending rate determination as recommended by the Wastewater Treatment Commission at their November 5th meeting. See council attachment number 2. Council members, what are your wishes regarding that ordinance? We've got a motion to approve by Alderperson Rayom. Is there a second? Second by Alderperson Dolan. If you wouldn't mind hitting your button, thank you. Move into discussion. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Thank you. Mr. Neitzel, if you might be able to kind of give a rundown of where this came from.
The first, or the original ordinance that we wrote really pertained just to our industrial service, or our industrial users, so that rate was tied to their strength of waste. Recently, we've had some different haulers from outside come in and bring us high-strength waste. Well, the way this is written, we have to charge them that high rate, and you know, it's not really fair to them, because the strength of their waste is less, significantly in some instances. So I wanted to rewrite this so that when they come in, we can test the strength of their waste and charge them accordingly, so that they'll come back, because they won't if we don't change this. And we want the high-strength waste because it produces methane gas.
So I understand correctly, this was previously based upon volume, not the waste itself.
No, just the opposite, actually.
Okay.
You know, I guess we just never thought about the fact that, you know, there could be other people coming in and bringing us high-strength waste, and we were just concentrated on our industrial users that are within the city right now. And the strength of their waste is very high when they bring it in. The stuff that comes from other places is lower, so you charge them by the strength of their waste. And if we don't have a mechanism to charge them by ordinance, I couldn't just say, we're gonna charge you less. I wasn't gonna do that. That's why I'm asking for this language change.
Understood, thank you.
Looking for equity for our customers at the wastewater treatment plant. Always a good thing. Treat our customers well. Any other discussion on the ordinance? Alderperson Stack, please.
Just a quick one, acronyms. You know what TLA is, right? TLA is a 3-letter acronym for 3-letter acronyms. What is POTW in your report, in your ordinance request?
Publicly owned treatment works.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Jim, for your insight. And for a little bit of comic relief, we'll take it, especially on the wastewater report. Any other discussion regarding the ordinance before the body this evening? Seeing none, please cast your ballots.
Motion carried, 8 ayes and 0 nays.
Item number 12, item B is a charter ordinance abolishing, item number 13, I'm a step behind myself. Second reading of an ordinance regarding social hosting, which is council attachment number 3 in your council packets. We saved the front row for you this evening, so I'm glad that it's decided to fill up. Thank you for being here. Council members, what are your wishes regarding item B? Alderperson Kellogg, please.
I feel strongly about this ordinance. I appreciate the Common Council and their comments that they made last month. I think it reflects the community and the wide span of attitude that might be in the community. But when I look at, if we talk about the past, and we can editorialize about what parents should or shouldn't be doing, the reality is, underage drinking is a problem in the state. And Wisconsin Rapids is not unique. And I think it's really admirable, and I have to commend the young people here, saying that they're not going to accept it. They want the adults, the Common Council, to do something about it. And so I commend you for doing that. I was looking at what it was not and what it is. And it really does not interfere with celebratory events in Wisconsin Rapids, such as weddings. And if you look at statement number 2317, I think it is, and 4A and B, it has nothing to do with celebratory events that may take place. But I was thinking of all the things that it does do, and I thought of 5 reasons why we should pass it. First of all, I think it's a tool for law enforcement to reduce underage drinking, and they have to have those tools, hopefully to prevent a serious injury and, God forbid, a fatality. Number 2, it discourages young people, young adults that are 21 and 22 from hosting parties of underage students. And that's, last month he talked about, is there a study with regard to this? And in my readings, I couldn't find a study. But they found that in college towns, when they implement such an ordinance, that there was a reduction in injuries of students that were drinking underage or fatalities. Now, I assume that's a correlation. Now, is it a study? Can you prove it? No. But I believe it'll make a difference. Number 3, when the health department, schools, and law enforcement inform parents of the ordinance, I think it's a catalyst to begin that discussion at home. Sometimes it just doesn't take place. And I think this would be a catalyst to talk about underage drinking. Number 4, often children, and I can experience this with 4 daughters, they put pressure on the parents to have these parties because their friends are having those parties. And if it's one thing that can help parents to prevent that, I'm all for it. So that is the pressure that parents have. And I guess the last one is peer pressure that young people have today. They have a tremendous amount of peer pressure on many topics. And often, their friends will tell them to participate, or why can't we do it at your house? Well, if they can save face with their peers and prevent it, I'm all in favor. But I look at the bottom line. If this ordinance can prevent one serious accident or one fatality of someone who's underage drinking, and that fatality may not be that underage drinker. It could be one of us, our family members, or any member in the community. And so I'm strongly in favor and urge all of us. In fact, I would urge us to pass it unanimously and send a message that underage drinking is not acceptable in Wisconsin Rapids.
Thank you. Alderperson Stack.
Thank you, Your Honor. I'm looking at, in the ordinance 23.17, parent 5, I'd like to know how the forfeiture would be set up such that it says in the ordinance not less than $1,000. Do the students understand what $1,000 is to a working family at this time? Those families that are struggling sometimes. And that, does it need to be $1,000 or can it be $500? Because I won't vote for $1,000. I'm not going to, you know, somebody makes a small mistake at home and all of a sudden they've got a $1,000 bill in front of them. To Attorney Schill, if the ordinance states that the forfeiture is not less than $1,000, does that mean the first level is $1,000 plus any court charges that may occur? Or would since this is a municipal ordinance, would the municipal court have an option to choose a different level of forfeiture?
There's some flexibility. The original ticket is probably going to be written for $1,000. Because that's what the ordinance provides. There could be some negotiation in terms of the disposition of it. It's common that fines are reduced. But I think, and you had sent me an email about this earlier, why $1,000? And I guess just kind of scanning all of the ordinances in the state, it's probably on the high end. You know, some of them had probably 100, 500. And I guess, you know, what I was reading is that people wanted to stress the seriousness of this. But it certainly, you know, if someone wants to amend that amount, that, you know, we can certainly do that today if there's enough votes to do that. But the 1,000 is, I don't want to say it's arbitrary, but I would say it's in line, I would say with probably about a third to half of the cities that I've looked at. But definitely, you know, most of the others would be lower. And I don't know if there's any. There might be one that's $2,000, but I think, you know, you just have to look at the message you're sending, or you know, I think that's why the thinking was for the higher amount. As I said, it's somewhat negotiable in the disposition of the charge.
All right, thank you. And then when you're faced with a forfeiture in court, and if the forfeiture was $1,000, there would be some other roll-ups associated with that, perhaps a court cost, I'll say, and if perhaps you hired a lawyer to defend yourself. So it could get kind of pricey depending on the situation and the individuals. To the, who is the spokesperson for the group tonight? Who wants to get up in front of the mic, please?
Chris, please, come to the podium and introduce yourself, and make sure the microphone's on.
Chris Bondioli, live at 2411 54th Street South in Wisconsin Rapids. I'm a school counselor, and I guess after last month's discussion and a lot of things, Mr. Kellogg, that you pointed out are right on to what I wanted to address tonight. Being a school counselor, I hear directly from a lot of students. There's certain families, there's certain adults in the community that allow students to come over and drink, allow them to go out to their back 40 and drink or whatever it is, and the parents don't really supervise that. The kids all know who those families are and those parents are, and it's quite common. And I think you bring up a good point where kids, they don't have the rationale, the thinking to decide if this is a safe thing for me or not. To them, this is cool, I got invited to this, and they go without thinking. And on all your points, Mr. Kellogg, you're right. If that can save one life, if that can save someone from going out there or drinking or participating in that, it's worth it. I have had adults tell me that they feel pressured. You bring up another point. At graduation parties, they have to have their sons or their friends of their kids drinking at that party because everyone else does it or other parties do that. And since last month, I've talked to a couple of those adults that has disclosed that to me over the years, and I said, wonder if you had some sort of ordinance that said you could, and I used the high, I used $5,000. Wonder if you could get a $5,000 fine for hosting this. And they said, I would have loved to have been able to say that to my son or daughter, that no way, I'm not taking a chance on this because look what I can get out of this. They need some teeth, they need something because of the pressure they feel from their kids. And I realize as adults they should be able to say that and draw the line, but it's more difficult than they anticipated. So I think those are some of the things that I hear it often in that 13 to 17 age group. I hear about it often. I'm told that information. This is exactly why we need a social host ordinance for those reasons.
All right, thank you. Does the group, when you came with $1,000, was that based on your reading of other ordinance in other communities in the area?
Yeah, we researched some others too. You know, Marshfield, Wausau, I believe they all had similar starting at that $1,000 level. And I believe you have to make it something that's worthwhile, that's going to make people think, is it worth hosting this? Is it worth doing this?
And did you take in any other consideration of a smaller 250, 500? You realize, of course, $1,000, to be hit with a $1,000 fine for something like this is just going to throw some families out of left field.
I agree.
You understand, don't you?
I agree. I think that's the exact reason why some families should think about, should I do this?
And do you understand that sometimes these things might take place without the parents' knowledge even, correct?
That was discussed last time, that if it's of the knowledge of the family, and the police officers would do an investigation on that to find out if they were aware of that or not. So I trust the law in that case, that it'll be done the right way.
Okay.
But, yes.
All right, thank you.
I still don't have a motion on the floor. Alderperson Kellogg, you're next to speak.
I see Gus Mancuso in the audience, and I think as a former high school principal, I think I'd like to have him make some comments with regard to experiences that he might have had or insights that he has.
Thank you, Mr. Kellogg. Thank you for allowing me to offer just a few comments as a community member, a former parent, as well as a former high school principal for nearly 30 years in 2 different schools in the area. I am supportive of this social hosting ordinance. I have probably far too many stories to relate to you investigating parties of underage drinking throughout the years. It takes an awful lot of time to do that in the schoolhouse. And I would also echo the comments made by Mr. Bondioli, as well as Mr. Kellogg, that oftentimes students are in situations that frankly could have been prevented. And I think this is one tool that could certainly conceivably prevent these kinds of things from happening. On a tragic note as well, I've had an opportunity to, unfortunately, be a part of funerals in which students have been killed after participating in parties that weren't supervised by adults and were violating the law. And in fact, I had to do eulogies at a couple of those as well. It's not easy to do. I know the fine sounds quite high. However, it also gives the schools a tool to educate parents at orientations, at family meetings, and at parent meetings with parents. And I think this is long overdue. And had I been a high school principal several years ago, I wish I would have had students like the ones that are before you that are concerned about their peers and want to do something about it. What these students are doing is extremely courageous. They're standing up and getting engaged in the process, and I think all of us need to appreciate that, and also for the opportunity that you've given them to ask questions, and rightly so, Mr. Stack asking some tough questions. I think that's good for them to experience as well. At the same time, I think we should all embrace them and really appreciate their efforts. I also would like to just offer a comment because I'm participating tonight as a community member. I also applaud the council for having, especially in the subcommittees, opportunities for people to engage, much like this. I realize tonight, too, that we can speak on behalf of items that are on the agenda item. So I appreciate any kind of activity that you do as council members to solicit that kind of discussion. So I think on behalf of residents and people that are concerned, I'm speaking, I guess, for them too, to continue those efforts to be heard. But again, I want to close by indicating to you that I support this strongly. I appreciate what these kids are doing, and I think they should be, again, applauded and recognized. So thank you. I'll entertain any questions by anyone, just from my lens of 30 years in the chair.
We do have a speaking order, Gus, so if you just
Yep.
want to hang out, we'll move through the speaking order. If you want to wish to stay up there, if others have other questions, Alderperson Kellogg, it's still your moment. Okay. Alderperson Hepp, you're next.
All right, thank you. Yeah, I had a few people contact me on this ordinance, and
because if you read the ordinances, this ordinance, and then you read other ordinances that are out there for social hosting, there's different things that can be taken in and out of the ordinance. And one of the questions was, is this just for parents, or is it anybody that's 18 or older? So if you have an 18-year-old or a 19-year-old at your house, and they have kids over, and the parents aren't home, is that 18, 19, 20-year-old responsible for the fine and all this ordinance? And how does that go on people's records? It doesn't really say, in some of the ordinances it says it doesn't go on your record, where this doesn't, I didn't see where it said it does or doesn't.
I can allow Attorney Schill or the police chief to entertain maybe answers to that question, and then we'll allow you to go on to the other ones.
Right, it would be any person that hosts. It could be, conceivably, it could be an underage person
Underage person at your
hosting.
house hosting, right.
Right, but generally, if there's someone in control of that, because I'm sure the underage person does not own the home or the land or isn't renting, so, there might be another layer that the parent knew.
Right.
and
But
that
it just says
could-
parents in here. So
Well,
it's-
parent is in here for purposes of making the point that an underage person can drink with their parent. That's why that's defined, but I think otherwise it's just person, a person who hosts or a person who knows.
Right. And that was one of the questions that a person brought up to me was, if I'm out of town and somebody between 18 and less than 21 has a party, who's the responsible party, I guess? And it doesn't say that in here.
It could be any person who hosts, which would mean to host or allow an event or gathering at any residence, premises, or any other private or public property where alcoholic beverages are present, when the person knows that an underage person will or does consume. So you could conceivably have more than one host, I guess, if but I think the main thing is we're probably not in the situation where we're trying to necessarily get other underage persons. This is probably more an adult
But it
that's
doesn't
doing the
say-
hosting.
Right.
But, okay, I guess maybe I'm not understanding your question.
Well, no, I understand, but it's just that when they read this, it was parent,
Right,
pretty much throughout this whole thing.
yeah, I don't see that. I see person everywhere except where it defines a parent, and the reason that that's there is to give you the exception of that an underage person
So
can
maybe,
drink with their parent, yeah.
so maybe it should have in here somewhere, anybody over the age of 18. Just so people know, I mean,
Well,
or not, I mean,
I guess it says person, and I think person is defined as, it could be an underage person.
all right, and then their question too was, how is it going to be monitored? Is it just from stories, or is it actually a party that has to be broken up? Going to be after the fact?
Well, actually, it could be either. I mean, we start police investigations in a number of different forms and fashions. Some is when we get called specifically that there may be some type of activity going on, and we'll respond to that location and begin an investigation. Certainly, and I reached out to my peers at Wausau and Marshall and got feedback on their use of the ordinance and the impact it's had over the past 2 years. I know they've conducted investigations based on what's been seen in social media. So it could be in any number of ways that an investigation could start, and then it's our burden to do the fact-finding to figure out and be able to find fact to bring forward what decision is made. Is it simply furnishing, or are we into a social host situation? So there's a number of different tracks that investigation could take.
Alderperson Kirkpatrick, you're next, please.
Thank you. There's been a lot of really good comments. Mr. Kellogg, your comments, I think, spot on. The counselor's comments, again, spot on, and Mr. Mancuso. You know, I appreciate the financial concern that you bring up, Jim. You know, $1,000 is a lot to bite off. And, you know, it comes down to the idea of, is this really, should this be necessary? No, this shouldn't be necessary. Any responsible parent should look at this and say, I'm not allowing that to take place. It's against the law, it's against my ethics, my morals, whatever the case may be. But, you know, I think we're kidding ourselves if we believe that there's that many altruistic people out there that really are going to stand up and say, you know, I'm not going to allow that. Well, I did that when I was a kid. You know, what's wrong? You know, I mean, we did that when, you know, back in the 60s and 70s we did it. Well, whatever. You know, if my kid wants to do it, if my nephew wants to do it, I don't care. That's fine. It's a huge shift in culture and perception, and we're kind of at the cusp of that taking place right now. You know, for the students who are bringing this forward, I don't know who it was that said the word courageous, but I mean, we all remember high school to one degree or another, and I know it was a huge slap to the ego. You know, if you did something that bucked what your friends and peers were doing, I mean, I'm sure that not a one of you hasn't walked down the hallway and had somebody mutter something about you so-and-so, you know, what are you trying to do taking this rite of passage away from me? You know, so I realize you're catching a lot of flack from even your friends. You know, not even to mention the people that you don't know who are going to say whatever they want to. So seriously, you know, hats off to you for having the courage to stand up, you know, not just to, you know, come down here and speak to us, but to go to school every single day and face that. The $1,000, I think, is appropriate because it gives that backbone incentive to the parents, or to the legal guardian, or to the older brother, or the older sister, to say, no, I'm not going to lose $1,000 out of my pocket on something like that. Yeah, I know I got to do it, but, you know, now it's on me. Now it's my responsibility, you know. If you diminish that dollar amount, I think you're really going to lose a lot of the effectiveness of where this is coming from. And just to point out 3 sections within the ordinance, 2317, parent 2, parent D, which states, and if, you know, please bear with me here, host or allow. Host or allow means to aid, conduct, entertain, organize, supervise, control, or permit a gathering or event. And then down to 2317, parent 3, parent a person is responsible for violating this section if the person intentionally aids, advises, hires, counsels, or conspires with, or otherwise procures another to commit the prohibited act. And then section 2317, parent 3, parent B reads, a person who hosts an event or gathering does not have to be present at the event or gathering to be responsible. And there's other, you know, so I think all of that points to who's liable in these situations, whether it be a parent, a legal guardian, an underage older brother who acquires it from Uncle Phil or whatever, or snakes it out of somebody's private stash. It's worded in such a way that that the police department is able to define who is responsible, or if the only person who's responsible is, you know, the 17-year-old or the 18-year-old student, individual. You know, if the parents went out of town and they said, well, you know, I really don't care what the law says. I'm going to host this thing myself. I'm going to have my friends over, and I'm just going to, you know, I know the combination, or I can break into that. I can get that, you know, alcohol out of there. Then it's not on the parent. If the parent said, you know, they told them, we won't allow that. We don't allow that. That's, now the burden is on the police department, the authorities, to determine who the responsible individual was. And if the parents consistently said no, I think then it shows right in here that the only liable individual is, that 17-year-old son or daughter who decided to defy the law and defy what their parents or legal guardians said, in their absence. So I think everything is here. And I think I understand the $1,000, that's a hard one to grasp, but I think that removing that or dropping that dollar amount down really takes away from what everything says and from what this is looking to accomplish. And with the verbiage that's in there, I think it's still an appropriate amount. And the only other question that I have is, I know I spoke with one individual who is on a committee, commission, council, whatever you want to call it, in another community, and they said that it was, on their radar, and it sounded like they were in approval of it. I haven't spoken with them in quite a while now. It's been a couple weeks, but I guess I'm just kind of curious what the reaction has been from other surrounding communities, because I know that you said that you were going to go out to these other places and say, hey, this is what we're looking at. Can you get on board with this? So I'd like to know the reaction from the surrounding areas.
Guess that's my part, right? All right. I'm going to share because they do definitely plan, as you heard from them a month ago, after addressing this ordinance with the city of Wisconsin Rapids, they were going to go to other surrounding communities' jurisdictions. And that work actually has begun. Nakusa has a social host ordinance in place, and they have been finding it very effective. They've had this site one time. Wausau Police Department, my colleague there, Jeff Hardell, shared with me, and again, to the point of the fine. The fines are clearly a deterrent compared to the previous method of citing for furnishing and them paying the small fine, meaning mom, dad, or perhaps having son or daughter work it off. But it was a small fine and a very small deterrent. We have used the social host ordinance probably 20 times so far. Again, I believe it's very effective and serves as a deterrent. That's Wausau Chief of Police, Jeff Hardell. Marshfield Police Department also has it in place. And similar comments to Jeff's. Their council, early on, as shared a month ago from council members, some concerns over, raiding the family party, weddings, graduations, et cetera. Not the case, not the intent of the ordinance. Once they were able to get that fleshed out and talked through at the council level, they got it. But it's been very good in Marshfield as well. So Port Edwards Police Department is working through the village process with the social host, and also Grand Rapids Police Department will be moving it through that community.
Thank you.
Jim, you're next, but I'm going to go to Alderperson Dolan because he hasn't spoken yet, and Jim, you've had. Okay, thank you. Alderperson Dolan, please.
And I'm not going to speak now either. I'd like one of the students there to talk, Peyton or the young lady, either one of you.
For all you hunters out there, you guys ready for deer camp? Got some serious pressure on me this year, considering my sister got a 12-point buck on opening day on the youth hunt. So here's the deal with the social host issue. When it comes right down to it, it's purely logic and responsibility. This Friday night at deer camp, as the saying goes, what happens at deer camp stays at deer camp. So if my dad were to offer me a beer, no harm done, assuming I would drink it. But if he chose to offer my buddies alcohol, that's when it becomes a problem. That's up to their dad's decision, not my dad's. And I certainly don't want my dad responsible for sending some 16-year-old kid into public hunting land, half hungover, and I'm pretty sure you don't want them sitting next to you. We trust our adults in our lives to provide guidance when it comes to decision-making skills. Skills aren't always so keen. There has hardly been a Friday or Saturday night since my freshman year that I haven't had a chance to attend a party or bonfire where alcohol was being served. There are some huge parties and others small gatherings. But when a group of kids are sitting around a fire and their parents are inside the house, fully aware that they're all drinking, that's hardly being responsible, especially because 80 to 90% of the time, these kids who are drinking end up sleeping in their own beds, which means they drove home. Frankly, in the past few years, I've known many kids at Lincoln High School who have been coded. Some are very good friends of mine. In my opinion, the social host ordinance is just logic and responsibility, making everyone think twice about the consequences of their decisions and likely saving a few lives along the way.
Hi, my name is Alexa Groves, and I attend Wisconsin Rapids East Junior High. My home address is 1240 13th Street North. Last month, we as the previous and current members of East Ambassador Group attended the Wisconsin Rapids City Council meeting to speak out about the idea of Wisconsin Rapids adopting a social host ordinance. When the idea of the ordinance was discussed, there were questions raised by the council. This was about how it will be enforced and if the idea was even necessary to move forward with. The topic of enforcement, as you know, is debatable. My dad was the chief of police in Rome, Wisconsin for 8 years, and I've heard countless stories of teenagers being supplied with alcohol courtesy of consenting adults. Enforcing this ordinance will be no different than, say, enforcing the speed limit. Unfortunately, not every law-breaking situation will be caught, and that will remain the case. As you've heard already, Marshfield and Wausau have adopted a social host ordinance, and between these two cities have used this approximately 31 times. Underage drinking takes place more than recognized. We would like to focus the ordinance on the junior high to high school age rather than those who do not have or rely on adult and parental guidance. This ordinance is a solution to an age-old issue. An issue which has grown with social media and has spread with the popularity of the idea of underage drinking. Underage drinking is an issue that doesn't stop in the home, but also continues to coworkers and family friends. As a leadership group, we are very passionate about this idea, and I'd love to see it move forward. Thank you. Any questions?
Alderpersons, any further requests to speak? I still do not have a motion on the floor as well. Make that comment if anyone wishes to make that motion. Alderperson Kirkpatrick, please.
Move to approve the ordinance request as presented.
I have a motion by Kirkpatrick to approve as request or as presented, second by Dolan. We'll move into discussion. Alderperson Ferkey, please.
I guess I just want to be real clear about this. If there is a bonfire and there's 5 18-year-olds drinking, is somebody going to end up with a $1,000 ticket?
Well, and again, this really depends on the fact-finding. You know, what had occurred to be able to allow that to happen. And if we have anyone who purposely and knowingly, and again, looking to, in my mind, certainly, you know, an older brother, sister, parent, someone that, you know, has real control and can make a decision whether or not this can or cannot occur and allows it to occur, those are the facts that are going to lead us down a path that are going to lead towards the social host piece, okay? If it's 5 18-year-olds that just happen to be able to sneak some brewskis out of mom and dad's fridge and get them out by the bonfire, totally different story. It's all about the fact-finding.
Any further requests to speak? I'm going to make a comment since I don't see any further requests to speak. It's been said earlier that folks like you have had the courage to stand up and to present this to the city. And I think when the request came before the city to have this item appear on our agenda and came to me and really thought about sort of like every request that comes before the body of whether or not it should be put on the agenda, thought about it deeply, right? Because there are consequences, and to what extent the debate will be reflected in the media or be reflected upon the city in terms of sort of how people portray this body. And I think this was such an example that not only youth, but also the police chief and the city attorney, by doing the research and informing all of us that this was something that, we may have created an island for ourselves. And so I commend all of you for stepping up and putting yourselves out there, as Kirkpatrick had indicated. You probably are maybe looked differently upon by your peers, and I can imagine that that's going to be, that's a challenge for you. So thank you for taking the courage and the confidence in yourselves to be able to bring this in front of the body and put forth really a civil debate. And I welcome, and thank the members of this body to have that discussion here tonight. So with that, I'd entertain any other discussions unless anyone else wishes to speak on the matter. We've got an individual from the public that wishes to speak. Does anyone want to or yield some time?
Recognized.
Kirkpatrick, Stephen, please come to the podium and introduce yourself. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Stephen Coth. I reside at 481 Plover Street, Wisconsin Rapids. I come here for a totally different reason tonight, and then found myself entertained by this issue. Jim, I appreciate your concern for individual families in the amount of a $1,000 fine. What I am going to say on this is, I lived out of town for a little bit. During that time, I worked for the River Falls Police Department as a reserve officer for about 11 years. One thing I found with the law is if you're not breaking it, you don't have to worry about the repercussion of a fine. Now, I have 2 kids at home that in about another 10 years, they're going to be 15 and 17. And there's no way I'm going to give them the keys to the house and go out of town for the weekend and let them have their friends come over and cordially drink. So as a member of the public, come here for a totally different reason. I commend these high school kids for doing what they're doing to try and make an impact in this community, and I support this law. However, I would ask the council, if they do decide to pass this law, to follow it up and take it one step further. Every student in high school or middle school has a decision to make. We've all been there with the teen decisions that you're faced with. I was invited to parties in high school as well, too. I had that decision to make. Do I go to a party or do I not? Aside from the law, the only thing that kept me from going to those parties was the wrath that I would face from my father when I got home. I know that's come down. The fear of your parents has kind of subsided in the last couple of years. So I would ask the council to do into considering this law is, if you're going to put that to the parents, I would challenge the council that every student that goes to a party that knows it's a hosted party by parents, to have a very stiff penalty for every student that partakes in the party as well, too. Maybe not in the capacity of a fine, but if you take, say, $10 an hour at 100 hours, that equals $1,000, so maybe consider maybe 100 hours of community service for every student that would participate in such activity. I thank you much and yield my time.
Thanks, Stephen. Any further discussion or any other requests to speak? Either members of the audience or council members? Seeing none, we'll move into a vote. Please cast your ballots. And the motion was to approve the ordinance as presented.
Motion carried. 5 ayes, 3 nays.
Thank you again for your participation. Item 14, we've got 2 items left on our agenda. Referral of communication to committees. Nick had given me a heads up that he wanted to make a referral or an opportunity to make a comment. Our student alderperson. Nick, please.
Hello, I am Nicholas Kozeski, the current student alderman from Lincoln High School. The mayor and I have been working very hard on creating an opportunity for the youth in the community to get more involved. The Mayor's Youth Council is an opportunity for students to have their voices heard concerning city improvement efforts. This group is another step closer to engaging the youth in our community and will help create more activities the community can enjoy in their spare time. If you are interested in joining us, applications are available for anyone in grades 9 through 12. You can contact Shane or the mayor's office for the application and any other questions that you might have. We are currently accepting applications anytime from now until December 19th. We are planning to have the first meeting in early to mid-January and are expecting no more than 2 meetings per month. We are also seeking advisory role members. They would be responsible for providing support and guidance during the council meetings. Anyone from schools, city staff, or the community who is interested should contact the mayor's office for more details. Thank you.
Thanks, Nick. Any other referral of communication to committees? Seeing none, we'll move into item 15, adjournment. I entertain a motion to adjourn. We have a motion. Is there a second? Motion and a second by Ferkey. All in favor? Opposed? That passes. Again, thank you all for being here, those joining us via camera, and everyone that's participated.